Happy Earth Day, everyone. My name is Leah Wisty, and I'm the Executive Director of Michigan Interfaith Power and Light. I wanted to start my Earth Day message today by sharing a story. Shortly after I moved to Detroit, almost 10 years ago, I got involved with a group that was working together in my neighborhood to make the community safer, more beautiful, and a healthier place to live. The group was very energetic and welcoming, and I loved how willing they were to roll up their sleeves and get it done. And I also loved that they were a little bit rogue, like they had the support of the community, but they weren't asking the city or anybody's permission or help to do anything. A big issue at the time in the neighborhood was that on every block there were vacant houses, sometimes that had been burned or scrapped for metal, and they were open and dangerous. Kids could wander in, they attracted crime, and having so many of these broken down houses really weighed on the neighborhood morale. I had 2 abandoned houses right across the street, which I could see from my dining room window. On some blocks, there were more empty houses than there were families. So we would find volunteers and organize cleanup parties to board up the houses, put murals on them, and plant gardens in the open space. One of the abandoned houses was deconstructed, so it was just a wood frame and a roof on top of a concrete slab. And it became a community stage where people would speak or perform music at our annual Harvest Festival. The group made the best out of a bad situation, and people felt empowered by taking charge of their own neighborhood and working together to make a visible difference. At the monthly neighborhood association meetings, there was always a refrain. We all know what the problems are, and we're not going to complain about them. We're going to take action, and we're going to make the changes we want to see. As time went on, I got a little burned out. While it was initially a really beautiful and invigorating thing to be a part of, I started to feel a little bit disenchanted. I realized that we were acting as though the problems were blighted houses, trash, and illegal dumping, and so we were working on fixing just those things. But because the group was committed to not dwelling on what was wrong, it also wasn't stopping to think together about the deeper forces at play, like inflated tax assessments that led to illegal tax foreclosures, like predatory lending and mortgage foreclosures, eventually water shutoffs, all things that drove people from their homes, and so much racial and economic injustice whose symptoms were abandonment and blight. Einstein said, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions." So in other words, the quality of your solution is proportional to your ability to understand the problem. So why am I talking about all of this on Earth Day? I'm talking about this because I think that sometimes we in the movement for climate and environmental justice make the mistake of not pausing to reflect on the root causes of the crisis that we're working to address. And we have good reasons for not wanting to pause. It's really hard to slow down when we know that people are suffering because they don't have clean, affordable water, because supercharged storms are knocking out our poorly maintained power grid, and because habitats of our non-human kin are being destroyed. And just like with my neighborhood group, we focus on doing because we care deeply, and it feels like we can't afford to wait another moment to act. But as Michigan Interfaith Power and Light reaches our 20th anniversary, it's a good time to reflect on the root of the issues we're trying to address. The root of the issues is, of course, harder to reach, but it's also our greatest point of leverage. Just like if we want to move a plant in our garden, we need to dig into the soil and pull all of it up. I've come to believe that the root of the climate and environmental injustice that we face, underneath the symptoms like the pollution that causes sickness and disease disproportionately in Black, Indigenous, and communities of color, underneath the wildfires and too much carbon in our atmosphere, and underneath the shuttered mines that have left behind contaminated soils. Underneath all of that is broken relationships with Earth and with each other. And under that is our distorted belief that we humans are somehow separate from, rather than dependent on Earth and the web of life. And I believe that the deepest expression of our work in the movement for climate and environmental justice is to repair these relationships with Earth and with one another, even though they were first broken long before any of us got here. Repairing our relationship with Earth includes things like keeping fossil fuels in the ground, reducing our energy use, and shifting to renewables as quickly as possible. It includes things like transforming our conventional agricultural system into a regenerative one, which not only yields more nutrient-dense foods, but also rebuilds the biodiversity of soils. And healing our relationships with each other includes things like restoring Indigenous sovereignty and treaty rights. So much tribal land has been used for fossil fuel and uranium extraction. And especially for my fellow white people, it also includes working to unlearn the racism and white supremacy that are a part of our national DNA, and working to create a future where all people can thrive and live with dignity. All of this may sound daunting. One of the reasons I'm grateful to work with Interfaith Power and Light is that I get to be exposed to wisdom from many traditions that helps me get unstuck when I feel overwhelmed by the enormity of it all. Jewish wisdom from Pirkei Avot says, "It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you free to neglect it." So this is what I came to say on this Earth Day. If this work of healing our relationships with each other and with Earth sounds like something you would like to be a part of, whether you're a person who's rooted in one religious tradition, or whether you are, like me, a spiritual nomad who finds wisdom in many traditions, there is a place for you in our work at Michigan Interfaith Power and Light. You can get looped into our activities by signing up for our newsletters at miipl.org or by following us on Facebook. As always, we are so grateful for your donations, which power our efforts. Thank you so much, and happy Earth Day.